Greetings, my name is Wrath and I am an ex-Hyperian. Today, I, alongside two fellow Illuminists, Christina Larson and Jewel Marsh, will be exploring 3 articles about the dangerous cult of Hyperianism. Let's begin. Well, welcome back, guys. Christina, Jewel, thank you for coming.
Good to be here.
You're welcome.
Awesome.
We're back.
Yes. So today we're going to be reading some articles about Hyperianism being a cult. We have 3 articles, one from Jared Hammer and 2 from David G. McAfee. And just so you know, we're going to be reading excerpts from these articles. You should definitely go read them yourselves. Links are in the description. We're going to take highlights that we thought were very important to respond to and give our responses. So the first article is New Cult Rejects Religion and Science by Jared Hammer. This was written on October 23rd, 2017. Christina, do you want to go ahead and start with the first article?
Yeah, sure. Morgue only speaks in absolutes. Everything he says, regardless of its legitimacy, is said as though it is fact. Morgue is not interested in open dialogue about his findings and speaks as though he is an omniscient leader. And that's exactly right. There's no dialogue. It's not a conversation. It's a lecture. He acts like if you want this secret knowledge, you better be at his live stream because that's the only place you're going to get it. And that's when he hits you up for money.
Yeah, he's always like, don't worry if you don't have any money, but I also need money to keep a roof over my head. And then as soon as someone sends him money, he goes, oh, thank you so much. It means so much to me. That's actually what the like most of the live stream is. It's 65% of that live stream is him asking for money and thanking people for money.
Yeah, and it's obvious that like that is one of the main reason why they're so long, because it like allows sufficient room for like him to get donations, for him to like encourage or coerce people in a way to sign up and just beg with his hand out pretty much.
His claim to support individual thought seems to only be in place to make potential followers feel at ease. Yeah, of course. When Morgue originally approached me to be a moderator for his live streams, he said something like, "Your friendly interaction has been so great," and our instructions for moderating these live streams was about creating a very welcoming, friendly environment. Because if people feel welcome and that everyone's friendly, they're more likely to stay and keep coming back.
As opposed to they keep coming back because they're learning something. He's like that boss in Office Space. He's like, Christina, you need to wear more flair.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
People can get a cheeseburger anywhere, okay? They come to Tchotchkes for the atmosphere and the attitude. Okay, that's what the flair is about. It's about fun.
Okay, so more than, yeah?
So you're saying, Christina, that like your intelligence was not the main draw for him. It was like how friendly you were to the potential followers.
Yeah, because he asked me to be a moderator when lockdown got pretty serious in LA and I had more free time on my hands. So I started coming to more of the live streams and saying hello to everyone, how are you, and stuff like that. And people were seeing that and responding to it and being like, oh, hi, Christina. And it was building that sense of community where it's like these people have this illusion that we're all a big, happy community and we're all these great friends. And I think that was really what he was going for is just building that sense of community through the live streams. So these people keep coming back, and that just provided that opportunity for him to ask for money to keep a roof over his head.
Yeah, it's very lucrative, this idea of you're like creating a welcoming, safe space for everyone, and you're in the process kind of being all things to all people or at least you're trying to. You're like not offending anyone's sensibilities. You're just like creating this environment where you can come and be part of the family. And that naturally for like vulnerable people and for like gullible people, that naturally will increase support and donations. You can see this in like Twitch too. People just send money when streamer or an influencer content creator just like is nice, or they compliment them or something like that. They want to reward that person for making them feel good, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he always says, "Oh, question me, question everyone, question everything." And then when you actually question him, he often will, if it's a good question, he'll often just let it go, even if you've paid for him to answer it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't actually support individual thought. He doesn't actually welcome an open dialogue, but he acts like he does, because then people are, oh, oh, what a nice guy.
It's strictly performative, what he says. It's just because it sounds good. He's like paying lip service to being accountable. You can hold me accountable, ask me questions or whatever, but none of it is real. He's gonna pick and answer what he wants to. That's as simple as that.
Yes.
Yeah. By making his followers question their own autonomy and environment, Morgue is trying to shape and manipulate the minds of his followers. Yeah, and once he makes everyone question their autonomy and environment, the next thing they're going to do is turn to him for salvation. Then he'll tell them what they should think and what they should do.
Yeah, and I mean, you see it again there. Like it's the behavior, I guess, of vulnerable people who don't really, or like sort of directionless. They don't really have a solid foundation. A lot of people, I think you'll find in this world, they just want to believe. They so desperately like, give me something to believe in. And all you have to do is like exactly like you said, make them question everything about themselves, their reality, what they've been led to believe, then present yourself as the savior, as the Messiah. And a lot of people will buy that, will eat that up. Overall, it's like extremely predatory behavior.
Back when these articles were written, he had a lot of videos that would be like, "You've been brainwashed by society, and I'm here to shatter your illusions." That was the gist of his content. And around the time of the pandemic, a lot of people were vulnerable and lonely and at home and scared. And he would come out with videos like, "Oh, this is the apocalypse, and I have all the answers." It is very predatory, as Jules said. And then, of course, it progressed. He would be like, what level human are you? Make people feel really insecure about themselves. And then, be like, well, if you become Hyperian, you can upgrade what level human you are.
Morgue claims to be above humanity. His website states, "We are beyond human. We are the next evolutionary step. We are Hyperians." By claiming to be above humanity and offering the same status to his followers, Morgue offers an illusion of grandeur. To me, this just screams, we're special, we're better than everyone else. Come to the live streams and you can be special too. Oh, and I need your money.
Yep.
Thank you, Christina, for reading those.
You're welcome.
That was Article 1. We're going to move on to Article 2 and read some excerpts from this article. Former reality TV star now leads a dangerous anti-science cult. This was published on December 18th, 2017 by David G., which is David McAfee. The cult was founded by former reality TV star and shock artist who goes by the name Morgue, and it's just as weird as it sounds. Morgue used to spend his time swallowing swords and performing other tricks in Venice Beach. We know a lot more about this now. His whole thing with shock art is really just him drawing attention to himself. and it's glorified self-harm is what he used to do. Hyperianism has all the familiar hallmarks of a dangerous cult. It says there is a greater truth being hidden from everyone. It holds unique knowledge in front of its followers as an incentive to commit to the faith. And it utilizes projection in stating that it's the rest of the world that's brainwashed. Morgue often speaks in the mystical, intuitive, performative words and in fashion. Because again, this guy's a carny, right? So like he again working on Venice Beach freak show, you got people walking down the beach, and he's got to lure them in by being extra performative. This is all he really knows is seeking attention. But what he does here is he is claiming to be this messenger of ontological mathematics, and he uses all of his carny performative shock art from his past to get your attention. Now, imagine a university professor giving the message of Aunt Math to the world. It would sound nothing like Morgue. Morgue comes on your screen and says, your reality is an illusion, and I can help you unlock worlds beyond worlds in your mind. A university professor would be speaking about ontology, epistemology, mathematics in a way that's not like a goth edgelord trying to get you to come into his circus. So it really is exactly as this article is saying, this former reality TV star, shock artist, carny.
So you're right. And also if you think about like this university professor teaching on math, nothing that person would say would be couched in this mystical, intuitive language like Morgue uses. And the really insidious thing, I think, is that when you use intuitive speech like that, it creates this sort of like doubt. Like, ooh, does he mean this? Maybe it could mean this. That's why you get all these people coming into the live streams that like have no idea what the fuck they're talking about, and they just say random shit like they know what he's talking about, because it's like open to interpretation. It could mean this, it could mean that. And that sort of doubt inherent in that, he is very good at monetizing. He like uses that uncertainty to draw people in and to make them donors pretty much. So this whole ACPI war thing that is going on now, one of the things that he was thinking about, or maybe thinking out loud, kind of like talking to us about, is that they wanted him to stop using Aunt Math. So he was saying like, okay, if there was a reality in which I stopped, or like we had to stop and we couldn't use that anymore, would there be a way to capitalize or monetize that to our use that to our advantage pretty much? So he was thinking like, okay, maybe we could be like there was like this forbidden secret knowledge about the origin and the nature of the universe that they don't want you to know. Like he's always looking for a way to like I said, monetize that doubt, that uncertainty. You see his thumbnails, they're always like, shh. Like he's always like trying to capitalize on that element of like, they don't, the forbidden secret teachings you're going to get right here. Like that kind of bullshit. He's very good at that.
Imagine someone from a respected academia. They would not try to make it vague. They would very calmly and clearly explain to you so that you understand the information. But Morgue, of course, it has to go on there and act like, well, you wouldn't know if a higher entity was making a YouTube video right now.
Yeah.
It's like he's painting this mythos that he's like a Prometheus,
Yeah.
and he's bringing some like he's bringing the fire of the gods, to you.
Well,
And
yeah, he acts like he's benevolent, like it's a gift he's bringing to all mankind, when really it's completely self-serving.
yes.
And regarding that Carney thing about, bringing people in, that's the only work experience he has. So that's what he knows. And he wouldn't know how a university teacher would present material because he's never been to university. He's never been to school.
His only experience is going out on the street and saying, "Watch me hurt myself," to get you to stop. And then, if you're impressed that he can swallow a pool ball and spit it back up, then, you'll give him $5. This is his whole life. As soon as he left his mother's house, he goes to LA and starts hurting himself in public, and people start going, "Oh, look at this clown. This clown's pretty funny,"
Yeah.
Here we have a quote from Morgue. "My act isn't shock for shock's sake. There's a purpose. It's to show people that there are different ways of expressing yourself," he stresses. "Whether it's something beautiful or something horrible, it's all valid, and it's all about opening minds." It's quite alarming. When a person tells you who they are, listen. And this man really said, whether it's something beautiful or something horrible. You know what I mean? And he's like, first he says, "I'm expressing myself." And then he says, "It might be something horrible," because that's what's inside, is a horrible monster. And of course, that's why he's got the weird, grotesque acts where he like mutilates himself for attention, because far be it from him to go pick up an instrument and learn how to play it or something like painting. He's got to do something horrible because that's what's inside.
And like here we have this fixation again on expression and expressing yourself. Like that is the highest ideal. That's the highest goal, just to learn how to, every individual learning how to maximally express themselves, which I would assume is somewhat related to like the alternative and goth scene, just this hyper fixation on self-expression at all costs. Just fuck everything else. Like, as long as you express yourself to the max, that is all that matters. Also, we have him saying that it's all valid and it's all about opening minds, but that it's all valid thing, that's kind of a crack right there, I think, because that kind of goes back to the being all things to all people at all times, or at least trying to, like saying, hey, it's all acceptable, it's all fine, there's no standard, there's no like, you can't tell anyone, no matter how they're behaving or what they're saying, you can't tell them that like that is not okay, you can't do that, like it's their truth, and who am I to say otherwise? It's all valid.
Yeah. The AC actually picked him to be the messenger of the Ontmath, because he was a shock artist, and they thought that would be a good fit because their material is shocking. And they actually said recently that they were really disappointed with how boring he was. He's not shocking at all. But once you've seen the hook trick where he sticks it up his nose, he's got nothing. You're over it. And by the way, people do that all over the world. You can get on YouTube and see people doing it even better than he does. People will do like big corkscrew things. So like, he's got nothing original, nothing shocking. There's nothing about him. He's just a carny. I have a funny Morgue story I'll share with you guys and the audience. So I was at a small gathering of Illuminists and a couple Hyperians. I was one of the Hyperians. And we were just getting to hang out and discuss ideas. And Morgue shows up late, definitely on something. He was invited, and he's definitely on something, probably cocaine, probably, or he was drunk. He was loud and like, yeah. But as soon as he got there, he pulled me and a friend aside in the living room. So, everyone's hanging out and talking and having a good time in this room. But as soon as he arrives, he brings us into the living room, two people, me and another Hyperian. And he sets his little suitcase down, opens it up, and he gets his hook out. And then he licks it and like sticks it up his nose and does the thing. And nobody asked him to do this. He just shows up to the party, pulls. Of course, he didn't pull any Illuminists to go show them the hook trick, right? Like, of course not. He took the two Hyperians and brought them, and almost as if it was like his little gift to us. Like, I have arrived, It's like we were just there to hang out. There was this was not a morgue show, nothing. We were just like, hey, do you want to come hang out? We're all talking and chilling. And he shows up loud, obnoxious, pulls us aside, does this hook trick. And I'll be honest, it wasn't shocking like the hook thing, and we've all seen it. What was shocking was his lack of self-awareness. That I was not prepared for that. And it made me very uncomfortable. I got my phone out and recorded it, but not because I wanted that as a keepsake or anything, but because it put something between me and what was happening. Does that, you know what I mean? Like I wasn't there. I was just holding my phone, and it kind of put a barrier between that display, And it's like that's all he has to offer. He can't just go to a party of intellectuals and have discussion. Like, he's got to show off his little hook trick. That's all he knows. That's all he's ever done, is say, hey, look at me. Look how gross this is. You couldn't do this or you'd die. Like, yeah, I don't want to do it, He said, his whole thing is, if you try to do what I do, you'd be in the morgue, right? No sane person with like a healthy mind wants to do what he does. It's glorified self-harm. That's all and the reason he gets attention again is because people are minding their own business on Venice Beach, and then this idiot's out here like puncturing himself. And yeah, people stop, but it's not because it's amazing. It's because it's cringe. People are not. They're stopping, but not for the reasons you think they're stopping. Morgue. It's a shit show, is what it is.
Well, to use his own words, in his mind, he's just probably achieving that way of self-expression. He's trying to express something horrible inside. That's probably what he's all about.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember at the third Hyperion event, it was held at Bordner's, also called Bar Sinister, and there's a main stage, and the main attraction of the night was what was going on the main stage, which involved Morgue is sort of an MC for a bunch of like a contortionist act and like a dominatrix doing a fan dance or something. But he was emceeing it and doing a bunch of his stunts in between, including the hook trick, including him swallowing a sword, swallowing a scythe, which is very dangerous because it goes right by your, presses up against your heart, and the one where he swallows a billiard ball and does the sword and then regurgitates it. And he before he said it, he's like, only 5 people do this in the world. And I think he said, yeah, and 4 of them perished or something in it. And it's like, why would you do something like that? My God. And maybe he was BSing about the other people, dying from it, but he was doing the carny tricks at a Hyperion event. There was no discussion of Hyperian concepts. It was an entertainment show, with all these.
As we've learned, all Hyperian concepts are everybody look at Morgue, watch Morgue do stuff, give Morgue money. That's the only Hyperian concepts that exist. So, he's full of shit. If he really thought he had a duty to like bring knowledge and change the world, he wouldn't like live his life like there's no tomorrow and do stunts that he could die from. You know what I mean? Morgue gained a platform to spread his own woo, bringing in new followers from around the world. At the time of writing this, he has 289,218 followers on Facebook and 85,000 on Instagram. Funny enough, another Morgue story. The first night I met him, we had coffee, and towards the end of the night when we were leaving, he mentioned to me, he's like, oh, by the way, we're not above nefarious tactics such as buying social media followers and bots. as implying that I should. And then he continued with just make it look realistic. And it's so at the time of this article, almost 300,000 followers on Facebook. He's got like 1 million now. Who knows? You know what I mean? He's been going, maybe in his mind, 1 million looks realistic because he's been going for 5 years. But if you look at his Twitter, like 2 people respond when he tweets something, and he hasn't used it in 3 years. Like he's not. All of his social media numbers are fudged.
And you're not the only person he suggested that to. I know of other people he suggested that to, and just stating it, it's like throwing it out there, and he threw it out there, including to myself. And some Hyperians did it. They spent money on it.
Yeah, he called it a nefarious tactic. And he says, we're not above nefarious tactics like buying followers. Like he said it so like he's got a weird like those gray aliens. He's like a twiggy alien with a big head. I thought he looked weird.
So he said to you that we're not above nefarious tactics, and his example was buying followers, but I mean that was one example, but it just makes me wonder like what other nefarious tactics he's okay with, But like again, that kind of, it speaks to someone who is obsessed with image and obsessed with illusion, pretty much. So he one of the most important things to him is perpetuating this image of this illusion of growth in popularity and reach. It doesn't matter. It's not important if you actually have it or not, if you're actually reaching people or not. It's about appearing like you are. Like everything else in Hyperianism, it's all performative. It's all for show. It's all aesthetic based. It's all like how everything looks. Am I saying the right thing? Do I look a certain way? Okay, good. And that's all that really matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've heard him say frequently in live streams, we are growing so fast.
Yeah.
You're growing artificially by buying, these followers and stuff like that. And he's
it's all the when the rich elite say bread and circus, Morgue's the circus, and so basically it's like I think in his world, if it looks like people are into what he's doing, then maybe some people will be into what he's doing. But yeah. Okay, so this is McAfee speaking about Jared Hammer's assessment. I couldn't agree more with Mr. Hammer's assessment. This has the markings of what could ultimately become a full-fledged cult, complete with brain reprogramming and maybe even self-harm or suicide. When you have a compelling leader demanding authority and telling people death is an illusion, you never know what might happen. Yeah, I mean, this is a full-fledged cult now. So at the time of this article, they were very concerned that this would happen. And here it is. It's absolutely a cult. And this cult engages in reality denial. This whole following lives in a fantasy world, and twice a week everyone comes together to worship Morgue, send him money. It's like they all live in a bubble, especially with what's going on in the world right now. It's really sad. It's really sad. If you are really a fan of logic and reason, you'll want to stay far away from it. Yeah.
I think that is like a really good crucial point too, that if you're being rational, it will lead you out of Hyperianism. There is no staying in the cult and knowing what it is and calling yourself logical and rational. It doesn't happen. So if you are a person of reason, or you claim to be, just know that reason will lead you out of there. It's not compatible.
Yeah, and all the people that use reason and logic have left.
Yeah. I feel sorry for the people that are still buying into
Yeah.
the show. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the third and final article. This is former members speak out against internet cult led by ex-reality TV star Morgue by David McAfee on August 10th, 2018.
So yeah, let's just let's look at some highlights from this article. Really good article. Some former members of Hyperianism, a self-described cult of reason that promotes math and logic using Gothic imagery and dark metaphors, are speaking out against its founder, who goes by the name Morgue. Morgue is a former shock artist known for his role on AMC's Freak Show. But these days, he told me his life is dedicated to producing knowledge. So I want to know right off the bat, how is it that a former shock artist, like a stage man, or a performer, entertainer, in other words, like a professional manipulator, pretty much, how is someone like that qualified to produce and impart knowledge? What kind of knowledge are they producing, do you think? He says that his life is dedicated to producing this knowledge. So one, I'm wondering what knowledge is that? It's really, I mean, considering his past as Carney, as an entertainer, pretty much, this is just a new swindle, like a new grift, a new hook he's found. Like we were talking about earlier, it's another lucrative opportunity. It's like a self-styled guru that he's made himself into. And if you look at Morg's Instagram posts and stories and the stuff like that, anything on his social media, you will, like, before long, it'll become pretty obvious to you that this is someone whose life is dedicated to enriching himself and himself alone. Like, you're talking about the shirtless photos, the like sexy come fuck me face, the like rowing machine. Like, how many people do you think can afford a rowing machine in this day and age? Like, we're not talking about like a humble working class person here who's like committed to learning and to imparting knowledge. We're talking about someone who likes the finer things in life, someone who is living their best life and just enjoys. They think they deserve the nice things. They think they deserve the best that life has to offer. That is the picture you will see when you take a look a little bit closer.
I remember the rowing machine thing, and I was Hyperion then, and I just cringed, like, oh my God, really?
He has a recent selfie where he's like laying down and it says,
That's what I was talking about. That like
Yeah.
come fuck me face.
yeah, but the caption is what does God look like?
Yeah.
And going back to the whole, I need the money to keep a roof over my head. Well, the roof over his head, for the record, is a 2-bedroom Hollywood apartment with a fireplace, a balcony, and a swimming pool. A roof over my head.
Yeah.
It's a very nice roof over a very nice place.
Yeah, a very, very convenient way of presenting that to everyone, isn't it? I wrote about Morgue and Hyperianism late last year when I was covering the group's rejection of Abrahamic religions and its attacks on science as an irrational religion. Morgue encouraged his followers to comment on my article, which led to a flood of Hyperians on my blog. Some were reasonable and polite, while others not so much. So this reminds me right off the bat of the tactics of like the common tactics of like right-wing influencers and content creators. Instead of engaging with any merits of any arguments that are presented to them, instead of learning, growing stronger, or any number of responses you could have to something like that, these influencers will instead sick their gullible and confused, sometimes brain dead followers, their entire fan base on their critics.
I feel like that's Morgue saying, "Oh, write an article about me, will you?" It's like
Exactly.
it's like a really toxic flex. Like
Yep. That's exactly it. So what you said, it's like very immature. It's like lashing out at your critics. We know that that's Morgue's MO. He's done that time and time again. It's very telling, I think, about this person's ideology. Hyperians are part of the tight-knit group, but some members, called the outcasts by mainstream Hyperians, were now breaking away to spread their own views about the cult and its leader. The outcasts don't have a unified message. The de facto leader of the small group, Anthony, seems to have no ill will against Morgue, who says he has good intentions. Instead, Anthony wanted to draw attention to poor treatment of members by revenants or higher-ups who emphasize social media activism within the movement. He created an Instagram account for that purpose. So when this article was written in August of 2018, this was before my time. What exactly were these things called revenants?
So revenants were never actually a thing in Hyperianism. It never got off the ground. It was announced, but it never really got off the ground. It was mentioned first in the Hyperian movie, which was accompanied with the ritual, and it's totally forgotten. There was a private Facebook group called the War Room. You had to take a test to get in, but then once you got in, you were on trial for a month, and you had to read, funny enough, you had to read The God Game by Mike Hockney at that time still, but you had to read all of Morgue's work, and then you had to start posting on social media, and you had to really prove that you can expand the outreach of Hyperianism by being extremely active on social media. And once you did this, Morgue had designed this like video game, like tier, like leveling system. And so, if you had like X amount of followers, you were this level. And if you like had started producing content for Hyperianism, you'd become this level. And you would work your way up, just like in like unlocking tiers in a video game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I mean, like really, it's all about tiers, right? It's all about like levels that you can like ascend, climb up, which is very cult-like in itself.
Yes,
Yeah.
very culty. And I just want to say on the topic of the outcasts, I was there for that. I remember this. The outcasts were people who were bullied and picked on, but they still really wanted to be part of it. But that's why they kept the name Hyperion. People like Jan, who's just a bully, emotionally unstable, powder keg, not being able to work with people, would get into that with them. And Susan as well. And then these people would get banned from the outer circle. And I know for a fact that Susan has this thing with Jan and Morgue where basically Jan can act like a total ass and just be the worst towards people. And what will happen is Susan and Morgue will always come to her defense and justify to anyone that Jan has been rude, obnoxious, or hurtful to, and totally justify Jan's behavior to them, or say, well, Jan's an order member, so you need to show respect, when she's acting like a total, like just obnoxious brat, like a bad kid kind of thing. And Susan has this weird thing where she likes to diagnose people. She's literally diagnosed everyone that comes through Hyperianism. Myself, both of you. She always does this. This is technically illegal because she does have a degree in psychology, but it's a bachelor's degree. Not to mention, she attained this degree like 35 years ago and has not been in practice. But what makes it illegal is you can't actually diagnose people unless you have a master's. So what she's doing is against the law. And also there's people that are just in the cults right now. And I wonder what Susan has diagnosed Renaissance Fairy with. I wonder what her diagnosis is of Laura LaFleur and Joanna. Laguna. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Behind closed doors, you got to know these people are talking shit about you. They're calling you obnoxious, and
Sure.
they would never say that on the stream or to your face. But this happens. You guys know this happens.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know firsthand. Absolutely. And going back to the thing about, having a bachelor's degree, you can't legally practice. Yeah, you have to go to graduate school, and you have to be licensed to do this.
Also, like, not only is it unethical and illegal to diagnose people at that level, but also you just don't know what you're talking about. You need the further education, the master's degree, to actually do that job well. So it's like you're coming at it from a place of ignorance, maybe like kind of thinking that you're greater than you really are.
Yeah, I know for a fact Susan has no idea what she's talking about. She didn't know, she's got this degree in psychology, right? That she got 35 years ago. She didn't know who Carl Jung was until she was introduced to the God series and Illuminism. And when Illuminists educated her on Carl Jung, she was like, wow, this is good. Yeah, no shit. This is psychology, Susan.
Mm. That's wild.
Yeah.
That she wouldn't know that. It's really strange because Jung as well as Freud, these are like considered titans of the field.
Yeah,
So
like
so like strange that she wouldn't know that. It's weird. Other members of the group, however, are more focused on what they see as Moore's failing leadership style or his lack of financial transparency. Yeah, I mean, what was true back then in 2018 is true today, even more so, I would say. Is even more egregious and offensive is the lack of transparency. Every single thing is like done behind closed doors or under the cover of darkness.
it always bothered me. I know it bothers a lot of people. Lately, he's even hid how his Patreon's doing. So now he's made it, you can't even like do your own calculations and like take a ballpark. Like he's hiding all of that. And then, of course, during a live stream, after he gets all his donations, the next day he cuts all of that part out. So you don't actually see how much he's making. You don't see the amount of donations. Like if you want to
Yeah,
see,
you can't do the math for yourself.
Yeah.
There's no way of knowing. Yeah.
if you want to see how much he's made, you have to either be there during the stream and count for yourself, or you have to catch his stream right when it ends and then do all the math before he erases those parts. But you can kind of see where that money's going because he flaunts his lifestyle on Instagram.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
everyone's like throwing him money and it's made him a Hollywood millionaire.
Yeah, exactly. Like with all the forms of income that he has combined, he easily makes six figures. This dude is not hurting whatsoever.
You got to wonder if he's afraid of people finding out how rich he is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well,
Because
yeah.
it's like once they find out, would that be at last? Would that be the final straw that would cause people to leave?
Well, nobody wants to support, this blonde-haired, blue-eyed male, white male, like WASP, I think, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, living in a fantasy world, like totally luxury living in Hollywood. The world has enough of that. And what he does is he hides his income and then goes, well, this is, I need your donations to keep a roof over my head. And then he like looks up and shit. It's disgusting. A former revenant who now finds herself among the outcasts told me in a phone interview that she found Morgue's prior group, the Order of One, by chance. She thought Morgue was interesting and liked logic and reason, so she decided to follow Hyperianism.
I just want to point out there that when the author is talking about Morgue's prior group, the Order of One, that what is really meant there is prior cult or the previous attempt at a cult. And there's been multiple attempts, and in every attempt, Morgue is always the main draw. He's always the central figure of all the stuff. So it really makes you wonder, like, why do you keep trying the same thing over and over again. It's like you must truly have some desire to be worshipped, despite all of your rhetoric. Like, I think it was the second Hyperion event, when he was like, it's not about me, it's about we, or something like that. But it's like the rhetoric, the talk is one thing, talk is cheap, but the actual action is what speaks volumes, I think. And the actual action tells us that it really is all about him.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, his just for the record, his other cults that I know about are Terrorism, and this is in chronological order: Terrorism Men, the Intern Project, the Order of One, and then finally Hyperianism. And I think the reason it keeps rebranding is because at first he's like a huge edgelord and very alienating and actually quite disturbing. And he realizes that's not going to get enough narcissistic supply for him, because the more people that come to his live streams and say, "Oh, you're so great, benevolent, and smart, and all this," that's more people praising him. And if he's doing his old tactics, people are extremely repulsed by it.
For the intern project, wasn't that like about people trying, like, auditioning to be an intern or something like that? So, like, isn't the implication there that Morgue is like the boss? He's the big man, and you're like the intern of Morgue?
Yes, that is exactly
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, I think you had to send in ritualistic type videos to him to get his attention. And Hyperianism started that way too. Order of One as well. I remember the Order of One, you had to blindfold yourself, take a selfie blindfolded and send it to him.
Yep. I still have my selfie somewhere, my
That's
blindfolded selfie.
so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you get these fancy letters in the mail with the wax seal on it and everything, and it's all very,
Yeah.
and then the ritual, of course, which
Yeah.
the initiation ritual.
So this is the former revenant who is talking right now, being quoted. She says, I always had a question about compassion, because it seemed like compassion did not fit in with what Morgue was talking about, she told me. Emotion was seen as something bad, and logic and reason was seen as the way to go. So, I mean, I just want to say, to be perfectly accurate, Hyperians, they love talking about logic and reason. They love claiming that and saying they are that way. But and the reason for this is because Morgue says it, and they want to be just like their daddy, you know. But they, like, in reality, though, when we move past the realm of lip service and just saying the right things, in reality they aren't interested in any way in any uncomfortable truth that reason might lead them to. The truth can very often be uncomfortable, and they don't like discomfort, you know. um Emotional self-delusion is pretty much the way to go if you want to remain Hyperion. You have to be comfortable with deluding yourself and lying to yourself and placing emotion above logic, above reason. I think Jan Erison is a great example of this, and that is a top level, top tier Hyperion. So that should kind of like speak volumes right there. She said no one questions Morgue or his emotional outbursts, and that he is untouchable within the cult. She noted that Morgue is known to verbally punish people by using aggressive middlemen. He has ways of punishing people. They verbally punished you until you feel at your lowest. He gets the other admin to do it. He never does it. So it's very true, and it's very important to realize that Morgue never gets his hands dirty in any sort of public way. He will never be seen in any sort of confrontation. What he does behind the scenes, though, that's another story altogether. But in terms of the public eye, Jan and Susan are what you might call Hyperion goons, trying to get the lay of the land at all times, and what people are thinking, what they're talking about, and they report all of their findings back to him, back to Morgue. Jan in particular is very oversensitive and
Yeah.
yeah, and like also prone to emotional tantrums, outbursts, lash outs. I don't think Jan knows how to work with others like or anyone else. But Jan wants to flaunt this kind of like inherent sense of superiority or divinity over everyone. Jan feels like she must be worshipped. Jan wants to be a celebrity. She wants that adoration. Despite being 4 years old, give or take emotionally, like emotionally speaking, we're talking about late toddler here, you know.
Yeah, she's very emotionally stunted.
Yeah.
I want to point out just that in the same way that Morgue would never go to like an article, like a journalist, and criticize them publicly, but would certainly have 100 of his followers do it for him. In the same way, he will never come verbally punish you, but Susan and Jan certainly will on his behalf. It's the same behavior, whether it's against a cult critic or within the cult itself.
Oh
Sure.
yeah. Oh yeah.
I would agree.
Yeah, I had a talking to from Susan, and I know it came from, she was doing Morgue spitting. It was so obvious. I tried to go to her so many times to try to address certain things that I disagreed with. And I finally gave up because all I would get from her was a lecture about why I was wrong.
So at this point, the author is connected with Morgue, who agrees to an interview. Morgue said the previous article, which is the one that Nick just covered, was not reflective of the group's mission, and he wanted to clear up misconceptions. So we're going to look right now at a few highlights from this interview with Morgue, but we highly encourage you to pull this article up and read the entire interview for yourself. The author says, I asked Morgue about the conversation within the Hyperion group that prompted my initial investigation. I showed him the screenshot from Raymond, who said he wanted to literally gut people. So the author asks, can you comment on this behavior from a Hyperian in the Outer Circle Facebook group? Morgue says, this is extremely disturbing behavior. We will absolutely look into this. There are people out there claiming to be Hyperion that absolutely are not and do not follow our ideals. We are for nonviolent and peaceful reform.
So I would like to just stop the video right now and issue a trigger warning. We're about to show you an article that Morgue wrote back when the Terrors of Men was his current cult. And just issuing a trigger warning now because it's pretty gruesome. I'll pull it up. Okay, so this is an article from Morgue and the Terrors of Men during the intern project phase. And it's entitled Strangle the Bitch, written by Morgue. I cannot count how many times some spray-on tan slut has inquired in disbelief why I dress the way I do, or do the things I do. It's not sexy, she informs me. Such stupidity makes me want to strangle the bitch. Why should I be concerned if other people find me attractive in any way? Should I change my identity for a waste-producing organ between the legs? And we can see there's obviously a pretty graphic dead woman in a bloody bathtub. And he goes on, but this is really who Morgue is. This is his website. When people come to Hyperianism talking about gutting people, and people, like journalists are like, hey, that's fucked up, right? And then Morgue says, well, yeah, that's pretty bad. I don't agree with that. That's all performative, entirely performative, because this is the kind of stuff Morgue says. Such stupidity makes me want to strangle the bitch. And then should I change my identity for a waste-producing organ between the legs? Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
So basically, what you're saying is that Morgue is a complete hypocrite, someone who's never had to answer for his previous actions, for his previous words.
Absolutely. This whole, I don't. This is disturbing behavior. He's not disturbed. This is his behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it exposes him as a misogynist.
Absolutely.
I've been told that you require new members, or perhaps revenants, to perform a certain magic ritual before joining. To an outsider, it seems like you're promoting superstition, to which Morgue replies, that is entirely symbolic and metaphorical to mark a special occasion. Something is done that says this particular moment is different and meaningful. It is significant and set apart from all the rest. There is nothing illogical or superstitious about rituals as long as they aren't interpreted in the wrong way.
I like how, I don't like, but I need to point out how Morgue dances around this question. His rituals, I've done a couple of them. I did the Revenant ritual. I did the ritual in Book 0. These serve as brainwashing initiation.
And also, you could even say that it adds like a sort of weight or mystery, I guess, to his self-proclaimed secret and forbidden knowledge.
So, yeah, I did the whole blindfolding, and you had to also make the sign of Nutera when you were blindfolded. The Book 0 ritual, my order initiation ritual, and then there was another order member group ritual that we did that I included in it. It's in the second volume 2 of Hyperianism to the Morgue. I included that group ritual in there. So yeah.
This is how he gets people extremely dedicated to the point of working for free.
Oh, yeah.
He grooms people into thinking that giving him everything is giving everything to a higher cause.
Yeah.
What is like so creepy and dangerous to me is that, like, not only we know that many people are looking for meaning or purpose or belonging or family or whatever, and that works to draw them to him, but I think the really disgusting thing is that a lot of people are looking for like a cause greater than themselves. They're looking to contribute in that way. They might see it as like this selfless act trying to improve humanity. And really that's the higher cause bullshit that is like how he's capitalized and monetized this false fallacious idea of a higher purpose, a higher cause.
While you're saying this, it's stuck in my head, the initiation ritual, and how much it just separates you from everything that happened in your life previously to joining the order. It was just, at the time I thought it was, oh wow, that was great, and now looking back on it, I'm just like, oh my God, I'm just,
yeah.
I'm still traumatized is what I'm trying to say. I'm still traumatized from my experiences in Hyperianism and in Corey's cult, and God, what a relief to be out.
Yeah. Indeed. So the author says, can you tell me what you think of the outcast group? What do you think of the claims they've been making about you and your leadership? Some of them say they love the idea of Hyperianism, but that it became more about your ego than anything else. Others say you promise to be open to being questioned, but that you won't accept criticism. What's your response to these allegations? Morgue says the amount of trolling we have received has been through the roof, and we suspect some kind of organized. I'm sorry.
It's ridiculous.
We suspect some kind of organized effort, whether it's by a religious group or some other, we're not sure, and are currently looking into it. We always encourage questioning using reason and logic. Now, as far as my leadership role, this was never my intention. We welcome new, intelligent, autonomous leaders to come forward and blaze the trail in the name of reason. So I want to point out that Morgue's playbook is to label anything inconvenient as trolling, the efforts of trolls. And then he would ignore said trolling that he defines it as and move on without ever addressing it. Saying he encourages questions is part of his game, and it throws people off the scent, the real, true nature of what he's doing. Any autonomous leaders are always in the shadow of Morgue. It's his face and it's his name that is Hyperianism. That's why it's Morgue official, and Hyperianism is always a secondary name. That's why you have like parasocial freaks showing up to the live streams and pretty much drooling over him or saying whatever unhinged shit you can think of, and no effort whatsoever is ever made to put a stop to it or to correct it, to say, hey, stop that. Nothing ever happens because he doesn't want it to happen. He doesn't want to stop. He has exactly what he's looking for with this behavior. It's all fine with him. And I mean, like, as far as his comments about the leadership role that he has, that he doesn't want, my question would be, was his leadership role also unwanted in the previous cults that he started? Because like we said before, they were all centered around him. He was always the cult of Morgue. That's all.
He says, we welcome new, intelligent, autonomous leaders to come forward. When? I know for a fact, let's see, he said this in 2018. It's 2023. And I have not seen anyone on his live stream welcomed, put in the spotlight. I haven't seen anyone come forward and blaze a trail in the name of reason. I've seen people working for him and he gives them shout outs. Is that what he means? You know, nobody will ever be on the center stage with Morgue. All of those people that actually were capable of coming forward and being on stage with him, they've all left. You know, the both of you, Kai, Rowan, you know, everyone that actually had Megan, everyone that actually could have been a new, intelligent, autonomous leader was never given any chance to be that, or to join him on stream, or in any of their merits acknowledged, except for a couple. Oh yeah, we love our mods. Oh yeah, Kai's streaming. Go check out that when you're not checking out my stuff.
Yeah, because it's all hyper individualist. The basics of it. Like his mindset is always like, well, this is mine. This is my thing. Like people are watching me. They come here for me, and you can like go do your thing and you can like do whatever, but this is mine. And you're not gonna take what's mine. Pretty much is his attitude, I think.
Yes. Yes. One of the chief complaints from your former members has been a lack of financial transparency. They've told me that through Patreon, merchandise, and book sales, you raise a substantial amount of money while paying none of your people, some of whom dedicate their lives to the cause. What do you think of this? And then Morgue says, people have no problem paying for a Starbucks coffee or a Game of Thrones DVD or a smartphone or a PlayStation or a Big Mac or a beer or a night out at a club or a concert ticket. But there's this attitude that people of knowledge are not to be paid and are to work for free and produce knowledge. It's just, I'm sorry, it's just funny that he doesn't pay anyone that would produce things for him. And he expects all of you to work for free, of course. But then, he's like, well, I'm not supposed to work for free.
But we are, right?
Yeah.
Fucking Christ.
It's also funny that he considers himself to be producing knowledge. He certainly produces videos that plagiarize knowledge, but he doesn't actually produce knowledge. And then, of course, he goes off to say, well, people pay to eat or go enjoy some music, go out some nights. Like, that's the same kind of like boomer argument where it's like, oh, you're so broke, you millennial, why don't you stop eating avocado toast? It's the same kind of, it's just totally like people need to relax, especially working class people who are working themselves to collapsing when they get home because they're so tired from work and they have to get up and go back in the morning or they don't have a place to live. So if they get a chance to watch Game of Thrones or something, all of a sudden they're like, well, it's your own fault that, it's ridiculous.
Yep.
And of course, this was when he was asked about his financial transparency. He goes on this huge rant. Typically, when someone does that, he's got something to hide. But
I would also point out, like at one point in his response, he talks about how he doesn't even own a car at that time. So I mean, he lives in LA. He's using Uber or Lyft.
Yeah.
And the thing is that anyone who lives or has lived in a city will tell you that that is fairly common for like people to do, to like go without a car they own and rely exclusively on like rideshare apps. And one, you have to be able to afford it if you're in that income bracket to like always round trip, it's going to be like what, like 30-40 bucks, something like that. But you can easily do that, and there's no inconvenience to you if you live in a city, because every single time you're pulling up a ride, it's going to be like 1 minute away every time, and it's simple.
Yeah, he says, I don't even own a car at the moment. Some people don't realize the cost of living in Los Angeles is extremely high. People can't afford to Uber all the time. So saying like he doesn't own a car is actually him flexing his money again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And like he says that some people don't realize living in LA is expensive. Like, yes, I am aware of that, but like also, why are you living in LA? Like, you're like a former reality star who like has probably delusions of grandeur, who wants to be like a full-on celebrity, so you have to be in Hollywood, right? It's like, if your life is dedicated to producing knowledge, why would you choose, I think it's like the second most expensive place to live in all of the US, behind New York? Why would you choose that? Hollywood too, not even just LA, like Burbank or something, but you're living in Hollywood. Like, why would you do that? So it comes down to like life choices. Why,
it's not like he has a job in LA that he has to go to. He could live anywhere and do what he's doing. But he wants to live in Hollywood.
Exactly.
Yeah, he
wants to be in Los Angeles.
he could still live in California, like north, and if he really cared about waking up the world, he could live in Montana, where the cost of living, you know what I mean? Like he could just go back to Montana and do the same exact thing.
Hmm.
And, but no, he spends all this money on living in Los Angeles, like the good life, the sushi delivery life, the rowing machine life, the hydroponic systems, and we've covered all this, but he's like, well, LA is very expensive, like that's his answer to this.
And so is getting chauffeured around in an Uber so you don't have to drive, but he's playing it off like, I don't even own a car. It's like, yeah, because you're getting chauffeured around, instead.
He's not even like class conscious.
He's not. And that becomes apparent when he talks about, well, some people, it's just the same as the Starbucks coffee. It's like, you think working class people or people living below the poverty line go to Starbucks for a coffee?
Yeah. Yeah, like I want a $6, like just a black coffee for like $6. Like, okay, $6 could feed a family of 4. You get some rice and beans, and he's out here acting like it's no big deal to give him $5 a month or whatever, But of course, we know he thinks that he's entitled to all these things. And with the narcissism.
So now, like in response to all the drama and all the concerns that David has raised during the course of this interview, Moore says, we have much more pressing matters to attend to, such as the production of our mathematics videos and world change. World change. Okay. I mean, like, how was that coming along? Like how is the world changing? How are you committed? How are you dedicated to changing the world? Every time a super chat comes in and you say thank you for helping us wake up the world, is that literally what you think, or like what you expect others to think? Like, oh, that was like my $50 super chat is like, now the world is more like the world is 5% more awake or something.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
When I read that, we have more pressing matters to attend to, such as the production of our mathematics videos. This was 2018, 5 years later. Where's the math videos? All right, like I thought that was pressing.
Yeah.
Of course.
I mean, like that response sounds good. Low the production of our mathematics videos, but I think it was just constructed for the way it sounds. It sounds very intellectual, high-minded, and professional, but it's all about image. He's obsessed with image. The reality is different, but he doesn't care about that. He only cares about the way it looks.
Yep.
So yeah, all 3 of these articles are great, phenomenal, and they are, I think, potentially eye-opening for some. So I think all 3 of us highly recommend that you go check them out in full, and we'll have those links in the description, and yeah, it'll be great.
Yes, and thank you both for coming on and reading these articles. I would like to thank David McAfee for covering this cult, as well as Jared Hammer. The 3 of us were in this cult, and we're free, we're awakened, we see it for what it is. And that's due to whistleblowers such as yourself. So thank you very much for your fine journalism, and thank you for helping others see Hyperianism for the cult that it is. First of all, I would like to thank everybody for watching. I am very excited to announce there are 3 new books from the Armageddon Conspiracy / Pythagorean Illuminati that expose Hyperianism. Ex-Hyperians and Illuminists came together to create 2 brilliant new books entitled Take Hyperianism to the Morgue. They are outstanding. They are excellent. They are a must-read if you are new to Hyperianism or currently still involved in some way. They're available for Amazon Kindle. Links are in the description. There is another third book by Dave Sinclair entitled Delete Hyperianism, The Face of New Cults in the 21st Century. The link for this is also in the description. Please educate yourselves on this dangerous cult. Thank you.